Hello, welcome, Marlene here. If you caught last week's cookie tutorial, we did a beginner Easter project, and today we're moving on to a more intermediate project. This will have a few more kind of techniques. We're going to work with a different icing consistency. So let's get started. And before we get started, here are a few ways you can help my channel. If you enjoy my tutorials, you can get even more of them via Patreon if you subscribe to that. If not, you can make a donation via PayPal, the link in the description box. Shopping my Amazon store directly helps my channel. And then you can comment, like, and share the content. And let's get started. Let's quickly look at the cookie cutter set once again. You can see there's a carrot, a basket, and a bunny. I picked this up really inexpensively at my local dollar store, but it does get quite pricey to buy every cookie cutter out there. So today we're going to look at using a design that we like on the cutters that we already own. So let's look at decorating that bunny on two different shapes. All right, I'm going to show you the same design on two shapes. It's not always necessary to run out and buy every cookie cutter that you see. You can usually tweak designs that you like to fit on the cutters that you have already. And so in this case here, I'm outlining the two in brown icing to create kind of like more of a cartoon look, like those cartoons that are outlined in black. I'm using brown just because it's not as harsh as black. You're less likely to have bleeding, which can ruin a cookie. Having black leaching into your design. So again, here it's exactly the same. You see I'm outlining the head. The head is in a very different shape, but the same thing. Again, outlining the body. The feet are smaller, but it's the same thing. And now the belly area. I'm going to flip my cookies around just to facilitate working on the ears. If you have any peaks or anything you want to fix, now's the time. You don't want to do that when the icing is dry. And let's just flip these guys over. I'm just adding a little line here at the top of the head. Same thing over here, and closing off. And now this one's round, so you don't have to find a point. And now the section inside the ear, replicating the outer perimeter, just slightly smaller. Here my icing is kind of pointed up, so I'm just resting it down on the cookie. And we want to let these lines dry before we come in and flood, so that there's kind of a separation between the line and the fill area. So we're going to let these set up a little bit, and then we'll fill everything out. Now I'm going to decorate the little feet. I'm starting off by outlining the perimeter, same as the bodies in brown. I'm waiting for these perimeter lines to dry, just to create a slight difference. As you can see, I'm working in a size that's appropriate for the cutter. The feet on the more kind of triangular eared bunny are much smaller, and so I need a much smaller cookie cutter. Now I'm just going to fill all these ovals with my bunny rabbit color, and you can move quite quickly. Now it's up to you if you want to drop the little pink pad areas into this wet icing so that they sink. I'm leaving them up to add just another level of dimension to the design. You see, it gives it just a little bit more kind of something going on. And now I'm going to flood my sections for my bunnies here. So I'm starting off with the tummy. There. And now we're going to fill the ear area. Now in a small section like this, sometimes you're better to underfill and then go in with your needle or a toothpick and then spread your icing within the area, just so that you don't have any overflow. A triangle section like this is sometimes a little trickier to fill. The icing moves kind of in a round way, so it's not going to fill those areas as nicely. Like here, it's just going to work better. Also, it is slightly bigger. There, it's connecting everywhere. There. Okay. And then once these have dried, I'm going to fill the rest. I'm not filling now, just in case my icing was to spill over. Then when it touches this wet icing, it'll connect and pull towards each other. So you're better to wait for the crusting to happen before you flood your areas. My icing has had time to crust, and now I can come in and fill my sections. I'm going to do just the bottom first, and then we'll come in and fill the head once this has had time to crust over. And this one here. Once this has had time to crust, the head will be filled. Last sections, the ears and head. One of the fastest ways to ruin all your hard work is by messing up the face. I really like using stencils for this. Even if it's not to actually decorate the cookie, it's a great way to at least give yourself some guidelines. So draw out your face and then you can cut it out as simply as just poking a hole through it so that you have kind of a guideline as to where to pipe. In this case, I'm airbrushing so that I get these fine little whiskers, the little smile, I'll have the lashes, and then I can come in and use the nose and the eyes as guidelines and come in and pipe on top of that very quickly and easily. The stencil fits both on the two designs. The width of the head, even though the cookies are very different, the width of the head is the same. And now I can just rest my stencil on right like that, you see? And I see exactly where to place it. I can kind of like hold it in place, or you can use a magnet to weight it down. And I'm using a color, I think it's called espresso. It's not quite brown and it's not quite black. I find it's not so harsh. Let's see. You see? I'm getting a nice fine whisker, and all your cookies are going to look the same and you can work pretty quick. Here's my next one. I love that you can see where to place it before you even add the color. It's kind of foolproof. Same as the bunnies, you don't need the exact shape. Here I've got two different carrots and we're going to make it work. I'm going to show you that it can be cute no matter what you have. So I'm just adding some lines here to the inside of the carrots. And now I'm going to let this dry so that I can come in and fill the center area. And now I'm flooding my little carrot cookies, and you can see the brown lines are causing some kind of like texture, if you will. You see the reflection there? So my icing has to be on the thick side but still heal, so that's tricky a bit to get the right consistency. Ideally you're waiting for your lines here to dry somewhat, because then it like doesn't crawl up it as much. It kind of stops, and so you're getting like an uneven layer of icing, which I want. I want like the texture of the carrot. They're kind of like a bit bumpy, and so these brown lines cause the orange icing to stay down against them, and then it's like a bump more towards the center. You see? And then once I'm done, I'll be able to add the green part at the top, the stem. Yeah. So you want your icing to connect against the brown lines. And then I'm going to shake it out for it to smooth. And there is the little carrot. Both adorable, really, right? Doesn't matter that they're slightly different. They both convey the message that they are carrots. I wanted these right here to be a little bit more up. So there. And that's it for right now. Here are all my bunny feet ready for the pads. So I'm starting off with a bigger dot. Let's just make sure that we've got all these smoothed over. And now the little toe. And now the bigger, same thing. And now I'm airbrushing the cookie in the same brown as I did my perimeter line. And what I'm doing is I'm just creating a slight fade so that there isn't such a harshness between the two colors. I've added alcohol to my airbrush color just to soften, like it's more translucent when it comes out. And so it's a little bit easier to just create like a blush kind of a color application as opposed to full coverage. And I'm just gently adding just a very tiny amount, hitting the brown line, and it's the overspray that's going on the ivory. And it's giving me kind of like a vintage, more antique-y look. There we go. And now over here. Now, obviously your cookies, your design, you can do what you want to do, but as you can see here, I decided to add some icing to those airbrushed features. The great thing about those airbrushed features is they're all going to be exactly the same, and you can just come in and quickly fill that with icing. Here I'm adding a pink nose, and you can just kind of do like a dollop of icing, a small amount, and then come in with your needle and shape that. Now you can either completely hide that airbrush, or you can leave a very faint perimeter and it gives a fake outline, kind of, you know. And now same thing for the eyes. I can just add a bit of black icing here to the eye area just to create a little bit of relief here. And again, you can come in with your needle and just fill kind of the area where the eye goes. This icing is a bit stiffer than the pink. And then I'm going to add a little reflection to this. There we go. Putting together my bunnies. Now, if you wanted, you could decorate the feet right on the cookie. You could have added like these ovals and have the feet right on. I wanted to have them separate like this. I like the little mini cookies. Now here, if you look at the difference here, there's no room for these little arms, you see? The big feet are hiding everything. So let's start with this one. I'm just going to quickly show you what I'm doing. Is I'm just adding a dollop of stiff white icing, and I'm securing the feet to my cookie. These are just oval cookies, and I'm just squishing those into the base. I'm standing up the cookie to push it kind of down to see like where's the bottom of the cookie if I want to stand them up. And then that's it. We're going to let this dry, and they're pretty much done. For this version, however, we're going to do the same thing. Add some stiff icing right here. And again, stick our little feet on. Let's stand up the cookie so that we can press them to the bottom. And now I'm just like that. And now I'm going to add some little brown perimeter lines starting here, a little bit over the belly, basically like a paisley shape. Just like that. There. And I'm going to let this dry so that I can fill it in that same ivory. And then my little bunny will have the little arms resting on its tummy. So that's basically the difference between the two. And now that they've crusted over a little bit, so easy, I'm just adding a dollop of icing in there, pushing it into the point right there, and just guiding it, and that's it. The cookies are pretty much done. You can puff it up a little bit more if you want, but don't go too crazy or else it'll spill over. And these might need a little shot of airbrush just so that they look like the rest of the bunny. I'm just going to add a little bit of fur right here. So just a star tip and just a little kind of swoop of icing right there. And it just carries up the white, like I say, from the belly. And it just gives the head a little added cute, and we can repeat that on the other one as well. Here's my cookie, and I'm just quickly adding some white background here to the top so that when I fill my basket, no cookie will be exposed. It'll just look a little bit more kind of completely decorated. A really thin layer, you don't need a lot of icing. Like that. And if it's messy, you can just come in with your finger. The handle is going to be there, so all this won't be showing. And now we're doing the same thing on the bottom area, but in brown. You can wipe your spatula with a paper towel. And now I'm coming in and filling this area here with a thin layer of brown. The reason for this is, should there be gaps in my basket weave, this will make it more difficult to spot them. By filling this area in with some color, you'll camouflage any imperfections more easily. This dries very fast, and so as it's drying, you continue to fiddle with it. It kind of flakes off, so you have to kind of work somewhat quickly. And while it's wet, I'm kind of marking it up to give myself some quick piping guidelines. And just like so. And the same thing this way, the width of the piping tip. And also not straight. It's a basket. Just give it a bit of a curve to follow the shape of the basket, like a roundness to it. And now I've put the brown icing in 2 piping bags so that I'm not constantly switching my piping tip. I'm ready now to add my basket weave. I'm going to start at the bottom here, and right where the line is going to go up, I'm just starting right there, and I'm pulling towards the edge of the cookie, skipping about the width of that piping tip to about here. And I'm following, like, I'm making it a bit rounded so that it follows the shape of that cookie. I'm going to stop, no point going up here. And now I'm just flattening right here. Well, there was water there. Okay. Now I'm switching piping bag. I'm taking my round nozzle, and you can kind of remove the excess here to get it to be the shape of your cookie. Okay, and now I'm grabbing my other piping bag, and I'm adding the straight line down and cutting it against the cookie. Now I'm starting right here where that next line is going to be. And cutting here, and cutting here. And again, just flattening right here. Laying this line down. It's repetitive. Once you get the knack, it's just repetitive. I'm tucking this line under this one here, this first one, and cutting here. Tucking it in there. There. And like so. Grabbing, switching it up to this one. And it's better if you have the 2 piping bags. If not, then you're constantly switching the piping tip and you can't work as quickly. And make sure the teeth are on the way up so that you actually see them. And this is my last line like this. So I'm going to tuck this one in there. Now this one's a bit longer. Okay, now you can just, so there's the whole basket, and now I'm going to jazz up the edge there. Switching my piping tip to a 364. It's on the big side, but it'll do. And I'm just adding a little kind of border along the edge here, like baskets have. And that's it for right now. I'm gonna let this just dry a little bit. Now I'm adding like a bit of cotton kind of napkin in there. And it's a 61 tip. It's kind of like a petal tip, like a rose tip, but it's got a slight curve, so it helps like to create a bit of dimension and have it pop up. Not ideal for packaging these cookies because that will break, but if you put them in boxes, it'll be fine. And all I'm doing here is I'm squishing to get like a petal tip, kind of like a ruffle. And I'm doing an M kind of movement right at the edge here. And you see there, so I've got some of the brown showing in there. So I'm just going to use a paintbrush to kind of smush this down and hide the brown. So you want to do this while the icing is wet and your brush is damp, not soaked, damp. And we're just hiding the brown edge and flattening this out so that we get a nice edge there. You see? And there's our little basket with the little kind of napkin inside. Finalizing the basket needs a handle. The handle will hide this ugliness right here. So I'm connecting right here and a circular motion to about here, I guess. And then I'm going to start over here and do the same thing. And that's that for right now. What if I told you there was a piping tip that would allow you to just squirt out flowers quickly? It's called a drop flower piping tip. They come in a few sizes. I'm going to start with the leaf tip. I'm holding my cookie up here to add leaves right here to tuck them along the edge. So you can kind of angle them like so. And if you want also, you can add a few kind of randomly popping over the handle just while it's empty, make your life a bit easier. And now I've got some yellow icing in here. You want the icing to be stiff so that it holds its shape. 224. And I'm just going to squeeze and rock, just leaving some gaps in between so that I can come in and add a different color after. And then see that there's a petal that got lifted off. Don't worry about that, because once you fill in with the other flowers, that will not even be visible. So in the wet icing, I'm just squishing in a little pearl in the middle of each flower. You can make these on parchment paper and then let them dry, and you'll have them to attach onto your cookies. It's a great way to use your leftover icing. You can pipe a little middle if you would rather, instead of using a pearl. That one's gone across the table. Okay. Now I'm grabbing my other color, kind of like a purplish color. And this one is bigger, it's a 140. And then in those gaps, I'm filling. I'm having some difficulties, but again, I'm not worrying too much about it. I'm just going to put a leaf where there's holes. Okay, and now I can grab a bigger pearl, since this flower is bigger, and add my middles to this. There. Okay, now I'm grabbing my leaf green again, my leaf piping tip, and in all this I can fill the gaps with leaves. And there we have it. Last step. The bunnies are done, baskets. I'm just finishing off the stems on the carrots. So on this one here, it's much smaller area for the stem. And so I'm just going to add on this side, connecting to the orange and pulling, connecting to the orange and pulling, and then in the middle here. And that's it for that one. And then here I'm going slow, and so what happens is it causes a wrinkling, like a ruffling, and so I'm just adding that, and then here the second one there, and then connecting, and again, and then we have our little stem. Not sure if I like this, but I had it in my head, so we're gonna do it. I'm adding a bow. So first thing here, it's a 102, and I'm just right here adding a squiggly line right there, cutting my icing, and now another one right here, cutting my icing right there. And now I'm adding a loop like so, and then back again, meeting right there. Now in the center, to hold all this, I'm adding a coordinating pearl just to kind of squish this down and finish it off. So there's my bow on the basket. And a quick recap of all our cookies. Here are the carrots in the two versions, the little mini ones and the longer ones that came with the set, both adorable. And you could probably use other shapes that you already own to create the carrot. And then our little bunnies. The one on the left is really the one from the kit, super cute, but the other one with the big oversized feet, equally adorable. Use what you have. And finally, the basket, as you can see when we break down the steps, it's really not that complicated. If you've stuck with me all the way to the end, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future uploads, and I'll see you next time.